A $2 mix you can brew overnight can outperform the entire fertilizer aisle. And I am going to show you exactly how to make it. Store-bought fertilizers are expensive, and most of them are full of synthetic chemicals that do nothing for your soil health. This compost tea costs almost nothing and feeds your plants better than anything in a bottle. Let me start with what compost tea actually is. Compost tea is not magic water. It is the liquid extract from steeping good quality compost in water. The water pulls out the beneficial microbes, nutrients, and organic compounds that plants need. The result is a nutrient-rich liquid that feeds both your plants and the living organisms in your soil. The two ingredients you need are compost and water. That is it. But the quality of your compost matters more than anything. You want well-aged compost that smells like earth, not like rot. If your compost smells bad or has visible mold on top, it has gone anaerobic and you should not use it. Good compost should be dark, crumbly, and smell like fresh soil after rain. For the best results, use a mix of homemade garden compost and worm castings if you can get them. Worm castings are packed with beneficial bacteria and enzymes that plants love, but regular garden compost works fine on its own. Do not use bagged compost from the hardware store that has been sitting on a pallet for months. That stuff is often dead and will not give you the microbial benefits. Here is the honest recipe. Fill a 5-gallon bucket about 1/3 full with your compost. Fill the rest with non-chlorinated water. If you only have tap water, let it sit out for 24 hours first, so the chlorine evaporates. Stir it well and let it steep for 24 to 48 hours. Stir it a few times during that time to keep the water oxygenated. The oxygen is what keeps the beneficial microbes alive and prevents the brew from going anaerobic. After 24 to 48 hours, you will have a dark brown liquid that smells earthy and rich. Strain it through cheesecloth or an old t-shirt to remove the solid compost pieces. The liquid that comes through is your compost tea. Use it immediately for the best results. The beneficial microbes start to die off after a few hours, so do not store it for later. Now let me talk about the safety step that most channels skip. Since you are brewing organic material in water, there is a risk of E. coli or salmonella if your compost contains fresh animal manure. Always use fully decomposed compost that is at least 6 months old. Do not use fresh manure in your compost tea. And wash your hands and any surfaces that come into contact with the tea before handling food. I am not saying this to scare you. I am saying it because every honest gardening channel should mention the risks instead of pretending they do not exist. To apply compost tea, you can use it as a soil drench or a foliar spray. For a soil drench, simply pour it around the base of your plants until the soil is moist. The microbes go to work in the root zone, breaking down organic matter and making nutrients available to the plant. For a foliar spray, strain it extra well so you do not clog your spray bottle and mist the leaves. Plants can absorb nutrients through their leaves as well as their roots. Compost tea works best when applied every 2 to 4 weeks during the growing season. I use it as a replacement for synthetic liquid fertilizer, and I have seen better results with healthier plants and fewer pest problems. The beneficial microbes in the tea actually help plants resist pests and diseases by improving their overall immune response. It is not a pesticide, but healthy plants are naturally more resistant to problems. One common mistake people make is brewing compost tea for too long. If you let it steep for more than 48 hours without stirring, it goes anaerobic. Anaerobic compost tea smells like rotten eggs or sewage. Do not use it if it smells bad. Anaerobic compost tea can contain compounds that are harmful to your plants. If it smells off, dump it in your garden compost pile and start fresh. Another mistake is using chlorinated water. Chlorine kills the beneficial microbes you are trying to grow. If your tap water smells like a swimming pool, let it sit out uncovered for 24 hours before using it. You can also use rainwater or filtered water if you have it. The quality of your water directly affects the quality of your tea. You can also add extras to boost your compost tea. A tablespoon of unsulfured molasses feeds the microbes and helps them multiply. A handful of seaweed or kelp meal adds trace minerals. A scoop of worm castings adds extra microbial diversity. But do not overload it. Start with just compost and water and experiment from there once you have the basics down. Compost tea works on every type of plant I have tried it on. Houseplants, vegetables, flowers, and herbs all respond well to regular applications. My houseplants have been perkier and greener since I started using it. My vegetable garden produces more fruit. My flowers bloom longer. The difference is not dramatic overnight, but over a season, it adds up to noticeably healthier plants. One thing to understand is that compost tea is not a complete fertilizer. It does not have precise NPK numbers like a synthetic fertilizer. The nutrient content depends entirely on what was in your compost. Some composts are high in nitrogen, others are high in potassium. It varies. So do not rely on compost tea alone if your plants have specific nutrient deficiencies. Use it as a supplement to your regular feeding routine. The biggest advantage of compost tea over synthetic fertilizers is that it feeds the soil, not just the plant. Synthetic fertilizers add soluble salts that build up over time and damage soil structure. Compost tea adds living organisms that improve soil structure and help plants access nutrients that are already in the soil but were previously unavailable. Over time, your soil becomes healthier and more self-sufficient. I have been using compost tea for 3 years now, and I can tell you honestly that my plants are healthier with less effort. It costs me nothing because I make my own compost from kitchen scraps and yard waste. The only cost is a 5-gallon bucket and a little bit of my time. $2 is a generous estimate of the actual cost. If you do not have access to good compost, you can buy it from a local garden center or a composting facility. Just ask if it is well-aged and aerobic. Some places sell compost that is still hot or has gone anaerobic. Smell it before you buy it. If it smells bad, do not buy it. You can also make compost tea from worm castings alone, which is even more concentrated. Worm castings are available at most garden centers and online. A handful of worm castings in a bucket of water brewed for 24 hours makes an excellent compost tea. This is the method I recommend if you have limited space or do not produce enough yard waste for a full compost pile. The bottom line is this: you do not need to spend $50 on a bottle of fertilizer with flashy marketing. A $2 bucket of compost tea brewed overnight can give your plants everything they need. It is cheaper, it is more natural, and it works. Give it a try on one plant and see the difference for yourself. I think you will be surprised. Follow Plant Blueprint for more honest, low-cost plant care that actually works. Subscribe for cheap science-backed plant fixes every week. And tell me in the comments what your favorite homemade fertilizer trick is. Thanks for watching, and I will see you in the next one.